They did it. Welcome to this edition of Bury Your Bookie, post Stanley Cup championship run here. Our local team, the Florida Panthers, back to back, rarely accomplished in the salary cap era. It's only been done three times. Oddly, two of the teams that have accomplished that feat and been in that category and level of greatness. Both hail from the state of Florida. The Tampa Bay Lightning did it in 20 and 21, and the Florida Panthers now back-to-back championships after three straight trips to the Stanley Cup Finals. The other team that did it, 2016-17, Pittsburgh Penguins, and the Panthers did it in style last night, keeping the cup out of Canada, as our good friend Doug McLean told us on one of our shows on Bleacher Brothers, as he was talking about what it would take to get the cup back to Canada. He said maybe massive tariffs imposed by the Canadian Prime Minister would be the only way to get the cup back there. So it dodges the country where the game originated once again, and the Florida Panthers distinguished themselves. This was a team that you could have thought would have been subject to either moving or the big C word in sports, contraction, because they were having zero success, had essentially neutered the fan base to the point where they were a virtual non-entity for over 20 years. They bring in this guy, Bill Zito, as general manager, and I talk about this a lot on my sports shows. You really need some kind of ingenuity, at least level of efficiency in the front office. And the Florida Panthers accomplished that. Zito, with some serious chutzpah, goes ahead, swings a trade, brings in Matt Tkachuk, who what was not as big of a factor as he might have been were it not for the fact that he played in that Four Nations thing. I don't know if it's a meaningless exhibition because all of this, the hockey players really epitomize the idea that it's all about the game and that is their concern. So he plays his eyeballs out, ends up tearing, it turned out, an abductor muscle right off the bone. Doesn't play the rest of the regular season after that in-season interruption, and comes back in the postseason and said there were many times he considered throwing in the towel. That, however, was a monumental move in the Florida Panthers' recent history. And of course, last night they wrap up the cup. We predicted here on the show yesterday that you play it 4-1. I don't know if there was a prop out there on the actual final score. My son, who's been playing out in the World Series of Poker in Las Vegas, asked me who I liked. I said I liked the Panthers 4-1. He went ahead and plunged on the puck line there, laid the goal and a half with the Florida Panthers, and cashed at plus 145. So you have to love the fact that the degenerate DNA runs in the family. So congratulations to my son, Jesse, for picking up on that. And the celebration is already on here in South Florida. There's a classic place, been commemorated in movies many times. Where the Boys Are, I guess, was one of them. And you have various movies about spring break activity. The Elbow Room already is hoisting the cup. Alexander Sasha Barkov, what was at the Elbow Room, 7 o'clock this morning. The place doesn't even open. They're still peeling the people off the floor from the night before at 7 a.m., and the cup was already there, right by the ocean. I think there are explicit instructions. That guy, that crazy guy with the white gloves, looks a little strange to me. Some kind of Michael Jackson knockoff. I don't know if he has any of the instincts that Jackson had, because you'd hate to see this guy on trial for some kind of child pedophilia. But I think the instructions are don't take the cup into the ocean this time. So I don't know if you'll see that. But various restaurants around town celebrated the cup. We have a couple of good friends. There's a restaurant, if you ever come to South Florida, called Heritage in Fort Lauderdale that is owned by a guy named Reno Sorbonne, whose brother-in-law sparked up the crowd last night. Looked like John Good Vibes Bonham as Roberto Luongo was beating the drum to get the crowd fired up before the game. The cup was there, and they put bouillabaisse in the cup. It's an Italian restaurant. And then my friend Joey Esposito owns a great restaurant here, if you're ever in town, called Cafe Seville, served his world-renowned paella out of the cup. So hopefully we'll run into it somewhere. We did run into, and no doubt you'll see this man on the scene, because I believe he was at the game last night. Scotty M joins us here on the program. Scotty, how are you, my friend?
Unbelievable, isn't it? We got a two-time champion right here in our backyard in the NHL hockey. Unbelievable. Crazy.
I would have thought it. Yeah, I mean, the big joke in the beginning of the franchise's existence was the only ice that anybody was familiar with here in South Florida would be at the bottom of a martini glass. And then we had that, what seemed like a 25-year period where the prop bet was only about at what point in the season, and it was usually either December, maybe they would get into January before they faced mathematical elimination from the postseason period. Now, three straight Stanley Cup final appearances and appeared to be the superior team. Now, it's easy to say after the fact, but they did have, in spite of the fact that three of the six games went to overtime, the Panthers, I thought, really dominated play throughout, and they did have those couple of blowout wins. So, an extremely exciting moment. Now, where were you exactly? I mean, do you have your seats straight there on the glass? I thought I saw your nose there, right behind Sam Reinhart as he was coming back to the bench to celebrate.
Actually, last night, believe it or not, I did not go to the game because I got caught up with late meetings and with work, and prior to the game with social media stuff, so I wasn't able to go. But I did go to a watch party where I live at the club, and it was great. It was jammed in there, and obviously everybody rooting for the Panthers. So it was exciting times. I'll tell you, probably one of the best trades, Defo. You'll probably agree with me in Florida sports history is when the Florida Panthers got Matthew Tkachuk.
Yes.
Probably one of the best trades in the history of all sports in this state.
Well, they made a vital transformation there, to quote the title of a song by the great jazz guitarist, avant-garde jazz guitarist John McLaughlin. A vital transformation, because they went from being this sort of nice guy finesse team to all of a sudden they're playing with a little bit of attitude and edge.
Yeah.
And they also, I mean, this Bill Zito, if he's not the sports executive of the century at this point, I don't know who is. And I was talking about this before you came on. You want front office ingenuity. That seems to be the measure of a successful franchise, and you can't be afraid. You have to have some balls, some chutzpah.
Yeah.
And making that trade was not an easy one, because Jonathan Huberdeau, the key component there that went to Calgary, was a guy that was widely respected. He was coming off one of his best seasons.
Yep.
One of the criticisms of Huberdeau was that he wasn't a big goal scorer. He was too anxious to make these beautiful passes that he made, and he was tremendous on feeding the puck to other players. But he actually was coming out of a year where he scored a bunch of goals and was starting to make a little transformation himself. But that swung things, and then all of these other acquisitions he made, including Brad Marchand, who was brilliant throughout the playoffs, coming from the Boston Bruins at the trade deadline. Seth Jones, who how did he end up in hockey when his father Popeye was a guy who had won a championship as a coach in the NBA and was a longtime player that a lot of people respected. All of these things added up to being insurmountable, as it turns out, even playing with an injured Tkachuk, and the fact that they were the road team in all four series that they contested to win the Stanley Cup title. It was just remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, they even interviewed Tkachuk after the game. If you heard the interview on TNT, he didn't even think he was going to be able to play. He was in that much pain going into the playoffs, and he says he just got better and better feeling wise as it went longer and longer throughout the playoffs. So they had some unbelievable medical attention to give him to make him feel that way, because he had a serious injury. He said he like ripped his like a whole hernia thing or whatever the case may be. So he was in terrible pain. That's not a light injury. That's a serious injury. And for him to play the way he played at the end, I mean, he really, they have so many. The key to the Panthers, and I told you this from the beginning. That's why I love them to win the Stanley Cup. I picked them before the playoffs started. I picked them in the series, leading up. And I said once they got to the final point, they would be the team of destiny. They just had the team. That was the key. The complete team wrapped around them with a tremendous goalie that has tremendous experience, obviously, in Bob, and all the other key ingredients, like you said, and all these great trades that they made. It just put them together, and they worked as a team, similar to like in the NBA with OKC is working as a team, and they love to play with one another. And you see it when they're on the court. In the Panthers' case, when they're on the ice, they were just the dominating team. They were the enforcer. They pressed the issue. They really made Edmonton look bad, and if you look at it, I mean, Edmonton, yeah, they got up, they won a couple of games, but that's because they can catch fire and score some goals. But once the Panthers settled in and got their type of game going in Game 5 and last night and a couple other games in the series, there was no competition, I felt, in that series as far as playing up to the Panthers level. So they dominated, they deserved it, they played great. And, I'm excited to see what they bring back next year. If they sign a guy like Marchand, if they bring back Sam Bennett. I mean, these are going to be tough guys to let go. They're spark plugs. They bring a lot of energy to the team. So, they got a lot of off-season decisions. But I don't know if there's really going to be a lot of decisions. Maybe Marchand goes. I think they're going to find a way to get Bennett back. But I'm excited for what the Panthers have been doing. They deserve it. They made the right moves. And like I said, since Matthew Tkachuk came to the Panthers, it's probably one of the best sports trades. Think about it. He's here, 3 years now? And they've been to the finals and won 2 Stanley Cups in the 3 years he's with them.
Pretty amazing, yeah. Especially he didn't play the latter half of the regular season because of his injury, a torn abductor muscle.
Right.
Also, in addition to the hernia, where he said his abductor muscle was ripped right off the bone, and he didn't know if, like you said, Scotty M, if he was even going to play again. Lots of ways to cash. I'm very proud of my son. He had a stick on the Panthers, laying a goal and a half last night to pick up 145. That's coming out of his successful run in the World Series of Poker. He was in a couple of the tournaments out there in Las Vegas. And,
How's he doing? How's he doing in the tournaments? He's hanging.
he bombed out in one of them, and he didn't cash, and then he finished 19th in another. So now these are the auxiliary tournaments, the main event.
Main events?
Yeah, so he said he broke out about even there, and then, of course, he cashed that ticket, and he likes to play roulette, so hopefully he held on to that capital afterwards, because that is a hit or miss game if there ever was one. But it also led me. I mean, I was very proud of the fact that that was his text to me last night. What was his ticket that he was cashing, the winning ticket. And at least I know my first wife wasn't doing it with the pool guy, because the degenerate genes are definitely alive and thriving in the DeForest family through the efforts of my son. There were a lot of ways to cash too. I mean, you got the plus 145 if you were willing to lay a goal and a half with the Panthers at home, which
Right.
I thought they had given every reason, especially after Game 5, to win in Edmonton, to look and sometimes you just have to believe what you're seeing. And everybody's trying to make a case. I think this was the Gretzky factor on TNT, where he constantly was trying to make a case for Edmonton, even when they were down 3-0 going to the third period. He's like, well, here's what they got to do. It's like, oh, okay, it's possible, but it ain't happening, Wayne. You can forget about it. Your Oilers are finished.
Right.
You could tell it was Kaputski City there, and you can almost see, reading the body language, that they were done. Also, the Panthers going into the postseason, a Stanley Cup chase, were the second choice behind Dallas at plus 650. So that was nice. I don't know what the odds were going into the season. Was it like 8 or 9 to 1, something in that category, Scotty M, to repeat as champions?
Yeah.
And last night, I don't know. Can you bet like the exact score in hockey? There has to be a place where you can make a wager. We had 4-1 yesterday when I was on on the show, and it ended up being 5-1, so we would have missed on that. But a lot of ways to cash, and they were plus 110 in the series against Edmonton going into the series. So lots of ways to make money on that thing.
I love the price at the beginning. I couldn't believe the Panthers would be plus 110 to win the Stanley Cup against Edmonton. I jumped all over that. I made a big score on the series bet. That's
Nice.
the only thing I touched. I didn't go individual games. I just felt the Panthers, like I said, I just felt that they were the team to beat. They were the team of destiny. And you could just see them putting it all together, and they were coming in at the right time with the momentum, as well as Edmonton was playing, but they weren't playing against a team like this that was so organized and well-rounded. And you could just see the class. I mean, in certain games that the Panthers, I mean, they really should have won the game that they were up three goals to nothing. I mean, the series could have ended in 5, to be honest with you. They were just the dominating team. And when it came down to it, the talent prevailed. And that's why they're the defending champs, and they are now the current champs. So back-to-back Stanley Cups and Sunrise, pretty impressive. Like you said, for a franchise that everyone was scratching their head for many, many years, trying to figure out if they ever get out of their own way. And they made a couple of great acquisitions. They got great ownership. They got a great coach now that seems to work with these players. They seem to really enjoy him. He enjoys them. So, it just from top to bottom, I don't think there's a better franchise in maybe all of sports, or definitely in the NHL, than what we have right here. We can't take it too lightly just because they're down here. I mean, this is a serious franchise, that is respected around the whole USA now.
That was great. Great stuff. All right, we have another championship to decide, possibly, and I'm thinking it likely ends tomorrow night, in spite of the fact that Oklahoma City has not been all that great on the road throughout the postseason. We have seen them taken to 7 games by the Denver Nuggets. They completed that round with a rout of the Nuggets on their home wood. Indiana, one last shot to fire, but the status of Halliburton certainly makes their chances very, very sketchy. What do you make of tomorrow night's game, Oklahoma City? And I think they're only laying 5 points in this game against the Indiana Pacers, who may not have Halliburton at 100%.
Yeah, I mean that makes the big difference, Defo. You hit the nail on the head. I mean Halliburton, as he goes, I felt they go because it seems like he, mixes it up with the rest of them extremely well. Tough out when you have a guy like that that's not 100%. Obviously, you could see that the other night. Didn't score an offensive basket. Scored 4 points on the foul line. I took Indiana the other night up to plus 11, so I got
Nice.
lucky to just push on the game. I bought it up from 9.5. It actually went down very late to 8.5, but I was in earlier, so 9.5. I got all my guys to plus 11, but he didn't even score it. It's too bad. He could have still caught the backdoor cover, but yeah, I mean, this injury is no joke. Obviously, he's definitely in some pain. To what extent, I can't really tell you, but I think it's over. I think OKC's going to wrap it up. When Williams and SGA are on, it makes it just an unbelievable force, those two. The other night they scored over 70 combined. And if those two come out that same way, it's going to be tough on Indiana. So I think the series is over. I thought it'd be competitive. Like I said, I thought it'd go longer than a lot of people thought. It was going to be a sweep of 5 games. I felt it could go at least 6 or 7. So from that aspect, we were right there. But I think OKC gets the job done. The line I'm showing is about 5.5. I'd bring this line down to 4 and buy it down to 4, and I jump on OKC minus the 4. I think they wrap it up and move on. And we're going to have a quiet summer after that. No hockey, no basketball. It's going to be about the WWE slash WNBA versus playing some baseball. So if the WNBA right now is getting a little nuts out there, they're pointing fingers at referees and all kinds of stuff going on. So we might have an exciting summer if the WNBA starts getting into fistfights. Uh, it could be an interesting summer for us. But yeah, no, I think it's over, Defo. I think OKC minus 4. That's a strong play. I think they wrap it up. I don't see a game 7 in this series.
There's probably somebody cashing every night on the WNBA, but I have not been able to really get into any kind of definitive position.
Fighting last night. They were fighting Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, Caitlin Clark always seems to be in the middle of something. It's one of those things. She's being treated like Robbie Benson was in
She's like
one-on-one.
Rollins of the W. She's like Seth Rollins of the WWE and the WNBA.
Yeah.
Instigator. They all want to pick on her. They all want to come after her. She's she's like Paul Heyman. She needs Paul Heyman in her corner.
She needs Jimmy Hart, the mouth of the South, to be her manager or something. All right, I know you get into baseball, and look, you can make money on baseball bets, especially if you follow it as closely as you and your team do, Scotty M. Anything on the slate tonight? Any general trends that they're following?
How about what's going on in New York right now? Mets over.
Four straight lot. What is it? Three straight shutouts, right?
The Yankees have lost 5 straight games in a row. They haven't scored a run in their last 3, and they hadn't scored a run in their last 2 home games against the Angels. You imagine the money they're burning right now for players that are chasing after the Yankees. They lost 5 straight. The Mets have lost 4 straight. That's 9 straight losers. If you would have bet against the New York teams with the prices they win last night, the Mets were a dog. They blew the game. They were up 4-1 going to the bottom of the 8th. Atlanta with 2 outs. They score 3 runs to tie it, and then they win it in the 10th, 5-4. But yeah, a lot of money being burnt right now with the New York teams. That's why I say you got to pick your spots when these teams start, kind of cooling off. You don't chase after them. It's not a good investment to chase after teams that are not producing, and they're finding ways to lose games. Like the Mets have lost some games recently. Find a way to lose them, not win them like they were before. So I kind of stay away from teams like that. But tonight, yeah, I'm looking at a couple of games tonight that look interesting. I'm going to take. I'm going to ride with Baltimore against Tampa Bay tonight. I like Baltimore. They've been playing well of late. Tampa has also, but I think they got a new pitcher going tonight for Baltimore. The line is plus 108, so I'm going to take Baltimore tonight against Tampa Bay at plus 108. I feel they got a shot to win that game. They've been playing pretty solid up and down. They lost the first game, came back and won last night. So I think they get the edge and win this one. And I'm going to jump on the Astros. They're playing too good right now, and the Athletics have just been going south. They did win a game the other night. Surprisingly, they beat them in extra innings, I think, on the last at bat. But Houston came back and destroyed them last night, won 13-3. So I think Houston is just the stronger of the two. Prices like -160 on the road. I really don't like big prices, and especially on the road. But I think they're just overwhelming right now. Better team, solid team, and playing much more consistent than the Athletics. So I'm going to take Houston, and I'm going to take Baltimore. Those are my two plays tonight in baseball, and OKC tomorrow, -4 in the NBA to wrap it up. And we'll be just WNBA and MLB from this point on until we get to the NFL preseason, which is coming up in about 6 weeks from now.
Bet
Crazy.
the unders. Bet the unders in every game. I learned my lesson last year. Bet the unders in every exhibition game, every preseason game in the NFL, and you probably come out with a big profit. I don't see that trend changing. All right, Scotty, how can people find you and get more of your information if they want to sign up for any of your services?
Yeah, definitely, guys. Take advantage of the things we're offering out there. Our free plays have been doing really, really well. Very consistent over the last long period of time. And you go right to my Instagram channel, which is SM Sports Picks, PICKS, with the blue verified check mark up top. Make sure you click on the one with the blue verified check mark. That's us. A lot of copycats out there. They take your pictures, they take your photos, they put it to their site saying they're you, and they're not you, and then you send money to people you shouldn't be sending money to. So make sure you get it right. And also, when you come on my site, you could join for free, where you get extra plays for free, my broadcast channel, which is something we just started about less than a month ago. We're building that up, so we got a lot of followers in there as well.
All right, excellent. Can't thank you enough for joining us here on the show. Congrats to you. I know you're a big Florida Panther fan, and the celebration is on, my friend. Celebration is on. I'm hoping to eat some paella out of the cup at my friend Joey Esposito's place.
I'm going to drive by Roberto Longo's house because he lives right on the same neighborhood as me. So I'm going to drive by there and see what's going on, because I know there'll be some action or some stuff going on over there. Hopefully, I'll catch him outside. I'm going to ask him where I can catch some of these festivities with the Panthers, because it's going to be wild times down here all this week with different venues that cup is going to go to and the players are going to go to.
Yeah, and his brother-in-law is a guy who owns a great restaurant called Heritage, an Italian restaurant here in town, and he married the sister of my friend Reno Sorbonne.
Yep.
And they were eating pasta bolognese out of the cup at Heritage last year. So I would imagine there'll be some kind of repeat performance there. And I mentioned the paella. They also went to the Cafe Seville, owned by a guy named Joey Esposito, who in college was the roommate of Tony Saragusa, who was an original silent investor in this restaurant. The Goose may rest in peace, but I'm sure the Goose enjoyed many a meal there. So among the best paellas you'll find anywhere in the universe, including Spain. I'm going to try and make it to one of those appearances there and see if I can't get a fork and eat out of the Stanley Cup. It'll be great.
Yeah.
All right, Scotty, thanks so much, man. We love you, and we'll talk to you again next week.
All right, Defo, be good.
All right, Scotty M, ladies and gentlemen.